So, welcome to our TESOL Manitoba panel discussion about and demonstration about generative AI. There's a few of us that are in the audience that are joining, and there's several that said they would be joining about halfway through because they're teaching until 12. So I appreciate you that have joined us and those that will be joining after this. And this will be recorded and be made available to TESOL Manitoba PD Pass holders because the different pieces of information that are going to be shared here from several different people and our discussion that we'll have towards the end, I think will be very valuable for the instructors, regardless of which institution you're teaching at. I am going to read through a land acknowledgement. I'm centered in the city of Winnipeg, and so I acknowledge I'm living on the lands of the Anishinaabe, Inuqua, Anishinaaquah, Dakota Ayat, and Dene people, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. I recognize and honor Treaty 3 territory, Shoal Lake 40 First Nation, so the source of Winnipeg's clean drinking water. And in addition, we acknowledge the treaty territories which provide us with access to electricity that we use, both our personal and our professional lives. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories, and we dedicate ourselves to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Okay, so as we enter into our theme and topic today about how we use AI tools, I just have a few questions, and you can either say your answers out loud or put them in the chat. Um, but I'm just curious, what what do you know, or how would you say if there's a difference between AI tools and generative AI? And it might be a little bit of a tricky question because I know there is some overlap, but I just want to hear from us to, just how would you define what AI tools are and or what generative AI is? Um, and yeah, that's where I'd like to hear what you think or know about those, and then I'll kind of say, okay, well, this is kind of how AI tools are considered and generative AI.
Like to say my understanding of when you say generative is
Yep.
something that can more or less make something, if not from scratch, but from a prompt.
Okay.
So I can um, I I can have a very hands-off approach insofar as I give it a very brief prompt and it'll understand what format I'm looking for, or it'll understand what type of maybe even what level it needs to be for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Scott, I'm sorry if I
Yeah.
interrupted.
Oh, oh, that's good. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Scott, one hand, two hands.
I guess my idea and understanding is similar to Jesse's. The generative AI part is more about creating stuff, so the generation of the entirety.
Yep.
I work a lot on photo editing,
Mm,
and there's an actual button called generative AI, or like generate image. So what I would do is to select a tree that I don't want to be in the image, and then I click on generative AI, and it'll just switch it to something that's not the tree anymore, and just blends into the background. But then I think that the AI tools would be things that would help us to create a lesson and not just create it entirely.
okay. Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. And again, if some of you would like to type something in the chat, that's fine with that. Um, Yeah, and I think I would echo what's being said. I think if we look at the realm of ESL teachers, we have different tools available for us, and some of them are in this area of automation, meaning it's going to help make our jobs just a little bit easier. And some of what you'll see today will look at how we can do that to speed up our preparation or to speed up our marking of different things or just the general process. There's other tools that we can be using in the classroom and 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 to whether you're creating, quizzes or short surveys, polls, etc. And then, as has been mentioned with generative AI, then that's where it's creating something that is similar or can change, but is not exactly like something from the past. And that could be reflective or similar to writing a prompt, as Jesse mentioned. So writing a word or a few sentences about a certain topic with the description, and then it's creating either a paragraph or a document from that, or doing research based on that, or making pictures, videos, etc. from that. And so we'll see as we go through today how much time we have and which areas, but we'll try to talk about both AI tools in general for instructors as well as generative AI. And as depending on our time at the very end, we'll also enter into a short discussion just about ethics and the use of generative AI, especially in the classroom for us as teachers, instructors, as well as for our students. So we have three presentations demos, and so we're going to have a time of question and answer in between each one. But Jesse Friesen is joining us. I'll let him introduce himself, but he and I know each other through teaching together at Red River College. And so, Jesse, I'll just turn it over to you and, for 12, 15 minutes, take us through your familiarity with these tools and what you do. And then we'll move on to the next demonstration after that.
Yeah, so my name is Jesse, and I'm teaching 5-6 at Red River College. Been doing that for a while now. We've been teaching that level for years, actually. And this idea, the difference between sort of like getting a little bit of help from, let's say, AI, or we used to rely on Google a lot, right? Google, YouTube, these were kind of our like online go-to resources. To sort of what we're doing now, which is generating things, not exactly from scratch, but
Yeah.
we'll call it from scratch, right?
Sorry, Jesse, just if you're able, because your speaking is okay, but it
Yeah,
is a little bit on the quiet side. So if you're able just to speak a little bit louder, that would be helpful.
maybe I'll just get closer. Is that a little bit better?
Yeah, perfect.
So one of the problems that I used to struggle with is creating listening exercises,
Mm,
or even like maybe even reading exercises. Let's say I wanted my students to read about a topic like health.
yeah.
I would go on Google, type in health articles, and then I would find something that somebody had published on an online magazine or a newspaper or something like that, and borrow it. Now, on the other hand, I can actually just put in a prompt in ChatGPT and say, write a 500-word article at the CLB 5-6 level,
Mm,
include XYZ, boom, and it spits it out in seconds, not even minutes, in seconds. And when it comes to listening, the big problem used to be like getting high quality listening samples and getting enough of them. Like it's sort of the ESL teacher's dream is to be able to have a huge wealth of listening resources so you can model conversations that you want to teach in class. You can model presentations. You can have interesting lectures that they can listen to, and they can take notes or answer questions and all this kind of stuff. But historically speaking, and by historically I mean only 2 years ago, I was doing that by hand, and I would have to handwrite a script for something, and then I would have to beg somebody at the very last minute, can you please record this with me on my phone? And
yep.
then hopefully we got it in one take, and then I upload an MP3 to my computer, and on it goes, right? Whereas now, so I kind of said to Trevor, I'll sort of show you a day in the life, because the way I prep for a class now is just so different than the way I prepped for a class 2 or 3 years ago. For example, we wanted to introduce this concept of numeracy in 5-6. Just, how do we talk about money? How do we talk about numbers? It's something that students often struggle with, even at some of the higher levels. If we're talking about 5-6 digit numbers, sometimes when a number comes up in discussion, there's a bit of a look of confusion, like, how many zeros is that? How many digits is that? So we want to sort of make that one of our topics, talking about money. And so yesterday, I literally went onto ChatGPT. Now, I don't know, should I be sharing my screen or something like that?
If you can, yes, I've made you co-host, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
hoping that you're able to share. If not, we can have a different option.
Yeah, I want to show you. Yeah, I want to show you the prompt here that I use. So, what I need to be doing. Oops. Right. Can you just quickly tell me how it is that I share my screen?
Okay, so at the bottom there should be a green box with an up arrow, and that'll be share, and then you can either share the window or the full screen.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna go to this window here. So does that mean you're seeing ChatGPT right now?
Not yet. Sometimes it takes one or two tries for that.
Oh, and
So
then I got no. That's my fault.
there we go. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's there we go. Perfect.
So, what would be awesome would be if I could have some short dialogues where people are talking and there's numbers being spoken, but where would I find something like that that is
Mm,
not only level appropriate,
yeah.
um, it's not couched within some big other mess of a conversation that I have, that I gotta, I don't want to watch a 10-minute YouTube video to find a 30-second snippet, and this and that. And then you find out and then you got to explain there's 20 words in there that they don't know. So
Right.
I go on ChatGPT, and if you can see my prompt here, you create 5 short dialogues where people are discussing money so that ESL students can practice listening to dollar amounts. Make sure to use a range of money vocabulary and to include a range of dollar amount from tens all the way to millions. Now, I added more to this prompt because as you sort of get the hang of it, and somebody was saying to me, a future job, a future career skill is going to be prompt writing in AI. And then I literally talked to somebody the other day who said it wasn't their job, but I think maybe somebody, a friend of theirs had a job. That's what they do. They hire people to create prompts. So our future skill is going to be getting really good at getting AI to make what we want the way we want it. So, through trial and error, you kind of figure out what works. But ChatGPT also learns. So sometimes if I type in a prompt, ChatGPT will say, "Do you want that at 5.6?" And I was like, "Whoa, okay." Be careful what I say around this ChatGPT because it takes notes. So then I just to make it a little bit more certain that I would get what I want, I just kind of gave a topic for each of the dialogues. But this is all I did, right? This is all I did. I didn't put any vocabulary in there that I wanted. I didn't give the characters names or anything. And then within seconds, it spit out these little transcripts for level appropriate. There's nothing bizarre or it's pretty safe content. There's no swearing. It's like so. Then okay, I can copy and paste that, and I'm going to switch my screen here, Trevor.
Yeah.
You just tell me if it switches or do I have to do that again?
Nope. Okay, perfect. Yep. Now we can
I'm on
see that.
Roshi right now.
Yes, correct.
So again, I'll show you one way to do it, and then 10 minutes from now, there's going to be a simpler, better way to do it. So right now I'll show you, okay, I'm going into another AI program to generate the sound.
And can I just interrupt while you're doing that? For those of
Yeah.
you that are watching, is this a tool that you're familiar with, Roshi.ai, or is this something that you've never seen? If you could just raise your hand or put a comment in the chat. I'm just curious because that'll also allow us to understand how detailed we go in explaining about this amazing tool. Okay, and yeah, you can continue, Scott, Jesse.
I was just going to say, because here I'm saying, okay, now we're going to migrate over to this Roshi platform, but at a certain point, you're going to get one thing that does it all.
Mm-hmm.
As the AI is just getting better and better. Roshi might be that platform. It might be something else where you just say, because I remember I was at a presentation by Johnny from Roshi, and the way he was kind of suggesting is at some point you're going to be able to say, I need a 3-hour lesson that covers all sort of skill areas about this. And it's just going to create everything, not only the lesson plan, but every single resource that you need.
Mhm.
Um, so this,
Sorry, so I'll just jump in because Scott
yeah,
said he's heard about it and seen it in action, but hasn't used it personally. Others are saying that it's new to them. So
yeah,
if I can just put in a quick plug.
yeah, yeah.
So in January, I sat down with Johnny, the creator of Roshi.ai. He's a
Mhm.
ESL, he was a former ESL teacher, went into IT. He's out of Vancouver, and he's made this program using AI, and it's especially correlated to the CLB benchmark and levels because he works with different institutions across Canada in Manitoba, including Red River College and English Online, but he's always getting feedback from instructors and from program managers. How can he make this better? And it's excellent for creating materials as Jesse, and I'll also show you a little bit of some of the tricks and tips with this. But there's a whole video with him explaining and going through some of that information in detail. And as TESOL Manitoba Pass PD Pass holders, you have access to those videos. So sorry, that's a little
Yeah.
infomercial, but there is much more information about this specifically geared for us as instructors in another video that we can share with you.
Yeah, and I think the really the key thing is if you're looking at the AI and you're saying, well, it's a little bit clumsy, or I could do this
Mhm,
better, or
mhm.
wait 5 minutes. It's kind of like the expression we use about the weather, right?
Yep.
If you don't like it, wait 5 minutes because it's constantly getting better. So what I show you today is going to be improved upon. But here's my dialogue from ChatGPT, right? And it asked me, do you want the audio version? So I asked it, well, can you create the audio version? And well, no, I can't. But here's some tools that can do it for you. So there's no shortage of technologies that are going to be able to help you along the way. But we're using Roshi. So I take this dialogue here, I would just copy it. And in Roshi, you have this feature that says create a dialogue. And so I'm just going to paste my script there. And sometimes it's a little bit tricky, but I'm gonna this are here's where you have some instructions. You just remove the instructions. The idea is that it'll just text exactly the way it is. It won't interfere and try to like generate its own content on top of your content. And then I simply generate dialogue, and then it's going to create an MP3 audio of two separate voices. I don't even have to like I don't have to I just post it with the names already in there. You saw how I kind of posted it, like Jesse, colon, and then his lines, and then Trevor, colon, his lines. Roshi already picks up that, oh, these are the two characters. This is their dialogues. So it doesn't read the people's names at the beginning. It just
Mhm,
instantly turns it into a conversation. And so then I just have to generate the audio, and it'll get out an MP3, and it's also has improved the voices a lot. So if you're concerned about the voice sounding robotic, I'm as long as the dialogue is not too long, you have a number of voices that you can choose from that are actually very expressive, shockingly expressive, frighteningly expressive, perhaps. So there, I just do that. That took me almost no time at all. I repeat that process because there's 5 dialogues in total, but so how long does that take me? Like 20 minutes? Because I got to proofread it a little bit and just make sure everything's okay. But 20 minutes, and now I've got 5 great dialogues. I drafted up some questions to go along with it. And it was a really great way to just sort of listen to numbers, try to record numbers, and being able to detect numbers that had, sort of like more complicated patterns and like things like 1,000 Gs, 10K, or 6-digit numbers that are a little bit tricky, and just to practice those kind of things. 2 years ago, I couldn't have done this. I literally would have had to handwrite this myself, find people to record it with me, you know. But here, that took me 20 minutes, and that's as good as anything you would ever find in an ESL textbook, I think. If you went back in the old days, you get the CD and there's little dialogues on it. The sound quality is absolutely perfect. You play it in class, the sound quality is absolutely perfect. Um, so yeah,
So could you play a short clip, just 5 seconds or so, and then scroll down and show us just like in a minute or less, how would you create questions with this dialogue? So if you could show us those two parts.
Okay. Is there a special trick when it comes to sharing sound?
Uh, there's usually an optimization. So like if you share the screen and then usually you can share the sound, and it'll optimize if it's a video.
Oh, it says share sound. I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
So I have the media player here. Oh, share. So now you're seeing my media player, right?
right.
Okay, so the sound should be on if you're ready for that.
Yep.
Have you paid your tuition yet?
Not yet. It's almost 7 grand this semester.
Mine was about $8,200 because of the lab fees.
I also have to pay another 1,200 for books.
Hmm.
I know. And don't
Yeah. Okay. And then if you could just jump back to Roshi and just scroll down to where it has the generate questions section, because I think that shows everything is all in that one tool from there. And then we'll see if
Yes.
there's questions from our audience.
So it says here, like, where to go now? Okay, so I can add a vocabulary list. That's sort of like the default things that you can do for ESL teachers. We always like to add vocabulary lists, right?
Okay.
But then there's also, I'm sorry, are you seeing my Roshi screen?
Yeah, we can see the add vocabulary. Usually right under that, it shows, yeah, okay, there we
Add
go.
activities.
Yeah.
So then if I click yes, so I can do multiple things here. I can actually go in there and sort of like fine tune the activities themselves and sort of like choose from sort of a list, like, it'll say benchmark 5, comprehend or interacting with others, inference questions or something like that, right?
Okay.
Or I can just go generate questions. And then I can, okay, I do it this way. This is the way I was talking about, where you got all the drop-down menus. So if I wanted to go like this and then choose from like specific indicators, or if I go here, I can type in, I can say, create 10 multiple choice questions, and then it'll do it that way. If I just want to type in a prompt like create MCQ, there we go. And then, oh, personally, disclaimer, I'm still better at creating questions than Roshi. Um, because what I find with like multiple choice questions is sometimes the answer will be super obvious, or sometimes the questions will be like repetitive. Oh, look at that. That's actually not too bad. But there you have it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so just in a nutshell, that gives us a good overview of how you can be really speeding up your reading and listening. And as you showed there, there's different CLB levels you can choose from with the different competencies and the details there. Any questions from those of us who are attending today about what Jesse has just shared?
Questions or concerns?
Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this Roshi AI, is it just you just search it on the internet and you use it for free, or do you have to have membership, or how does that work?
Yeah, that one you have to have a membership for. Um, and it's kind of interesting when it comes to licensing, right, Trevor? Like ChatGPT is free, but it has limited options. And then Roshi is something we have a subscription for, but then if you have a Microsoft account, you have access to Copilot. So there's a lot of different AI tools out there. Some of them are free. Some, your organization might have preferences for one over the other. We were kind of suggested to use Copilot because it comes together with our Microsoft subscription. But then again, like there's so many platforms that I don't even know about. Like you could just ask ChatGPT, hey, are there any free AI things for creating audio? It gave me a list of them there that I've never even heard of those before. But there's so much going on, and new platforms probably being developed, almost every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with this specifically, you can create a few lessons for free to try it out. Johnny had offered I think it was 1 month if we were using a specific code from TESOL Manitoba. So
Mm.
that those details will be in the video that I'll send out when I sat down with him over Zoom because he's in Vancouver, but and give more details with that. And I'll just highlight like Jesse, just to clarify, like you're at Red River College, and so
Yep.
that's something that as we talk with people and instructors from different oh, thank you, Scott. Appreciate that you were able to drop by for this first half. I know you have work to do from here. Um, but yeah, different institutions have different policies and or preferred platforms. So
Yeah.
I would encourage to talk with your institution. If there's other questions or concerns, that's something that you can reach out to myself or others at TESOL Manitoba, and we can, kind of steer or direct you to some of these things. Any other questions about what Jesse has demonstrated? Okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
We did a unit on like reading articles.
Hmm.
And so again, that can also be painstaking getting those kind of resources too. Like because you want it sort of on topic but level appropriate. And you
Right.
want your cake and you want to eat it too, right? And ChatGPT, to answer Pam's question, like ChatGPT is free, and I had such great success doing things like I said earlier, create a 500 word article at this level about this topic. And then if you want to fine tune it and add little things like, add some past continuous in there or whatever, you can do that kind of thing too. And then with Copilot, which is the Microsoft AI, you can use it to generate images. So let's say
Hmm.
your topic was about health and fitness, and you could ask Copilot, like, create a clip art style image, of somebody working out at a gym. And then you could attach that to your article if you wanted to like decorate it and make it look a little more like as if you had gotten it off a website or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Within that. Okay. Well, thank you, Jesse. I appreciate that sharing. And I'm going to actually jump in and share something that uses similar tools, but also Copilot. And some of that will piggyback on what Jesse's doing. And then we're also going to have another person join us and demonstrate another tool that a lot of teachers have been using lately in this field or this area. Um, so, sorry, I'm just going to look at my screen to make sure that I'm sharing the right section here because I had everything all queued up. And then, as sometimes happens with technology, then it's like, okay, where did that go? So let me just click through a couple of screens here. Um, okay. Um, okay. I may end up just pulling this up in a fresh way. But what I'd like to just share a bit is similar to what Jesse has shared, um, but using YouTube videos. And so I'm going to share my screen and then make sure that all of us can see it. Um, I'm just going to type in the youtube.com. Okay. And yeah, so uh, let me share screen. And then just let me know when you're able to see the screen uh, once it shows up. Okay. Are you able to see the screen now? Okay. Um, so can you see the screen or not yet?
Talk about your feelings. Let them out.
Yeah.
You can see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, uh, similar to Jesse, I'm teaching a unit now that's talking about it for I'm a little bit lower level. I'm teaching CLB 4.5. And so I'm doing a unit on Canadian rights and responsibilities, which can be a little bit challenging as a topic, especially for those that are lower fours. Um, but there's a series of videos about Canadians, teens or children who are advocating for different rights about climate change, about mental health, etc. And so what I did, because this material was not part of our unit, but I wanted to create some um, listening for this. So what I did is I went to the YouTube link, and you can see it's 2 minute video. And then um, if I go to the transcript, because you always need to find the actual written words of what is said. Um, so if I go to more under here where it gives a brief overview, and then I scroll down or move down, it opens up the transcript area and I can show the transcript. And then the transcript appears on the right-hand side of the YouTube video. So when I'm looking at this, it has the timestamps, which is not always ideal. And so what I do is I could copy and paste the timestamps and then, or the transcript and put it into Copilot or ChatGPT and clean it up. Or what I often do is I copy the video URL. So I right click and copy it. I go into the same program that Jesse was just talking about with Roshi AI, and that's where it says there you can try for free, and we can get an extended trial period through TESOL Manitoba. So I go down. Let me just see here with. Okay, this might not. Okay, so I'm going to click on lessons. Okay, so it still wants me. Okay, I see. That's why. Um, okay, so I might not be able to do this demo as quickly as I wanted. I have two laptops, and so I did it on the other laptop earlier today. Okay, well, let me just go in. I'm not sure if my email is still associated with this or not, but let's just say. And I hope my passwords match each other. Okay, so yeah, so very quick and easy to sign up and then to create a lesson. And so when I'm looking at the screen with the options, is if I go down a little bit, it says link to a YouTube video. And so that's where I can add and change the title. So I'm just going to say mental health um, uh, presentation. Okay. And then I'm going to go down and enter into the URL. And the video thumbnail will pop up, meaning there'll be a picture of that video. And that's important because then I know for sure that it's found the right video that I want to do. And then you can see here, download transcript. As soon as I click on that, then it gives me the same transcript that the YouTube video gave. However, there's no timestamps. So that makes it easier for me. So I'm going to copy that. And now this is where I'm going to use Copilot. And again, I might need uh, to sign in or get started here. So that's all information. Oh, let's see if this will take me to it. Okay, yes, it will. So what I do with Copilot, so I copy and paste the text into Copilot, and then I give it the instructions, and I can either ask it for skimming and scanning questions, or what I do is I have a prompt set up, and it'll just take me a minute to sorry, you'll kind of watch as I go through this, but I'm going to go find. I have a prompt set up for Copilot. Let me just see if I can find that. Here it is, Copilot prompts. So I've been using Roshi and Copilot and a few other programs for a while. And I'm not, oh yeah, I'm just sharing on the video screen, so you're not able to see this, which is fine. So I've made a prompt with Copilot where I ask it, and maybe I'll try to make this a little bit larger. Okay. So, um, so I ask it to create one multiple choice main idea question, five multiple choice detail questions, three true false, one true, two false, a multiple choice inference question, a multiple choice implied meaning question, and a short answer application question. And the reason I'm choosing these, it's because I wanted to um, create questions similar to skill using and to assessments. And that's where usually the structure as you move through CLB 4, 5, 6, 7 is there's these different categories of questions that they're testing the students on. So I submit that and okay, so it's giving me a little bit of oh, I asked it to do that for a PDF and there isn't a PDF. Um, but it does start and it creates the questions. And so here it's giving me the correct answers with those types of questions. So there's detail, main idea, true, false, not given, etc. So then I can go to the bottom and I can press copy. Sorry, I just have to make it a bit smaller so that I can see the different settings with that. And then I can put this into a Word document and then give it to my students. And so they're watching the video, and then these questions are the accompaniment for the video. So again, just as Jesse was saying, within 5 or 7 minutes, and if some of these steps are a bit confusing, that's okay. There's lots of guides online, or we could review. But from a video, within a few minutes, I can create questions with answers that are similar to skill using or assessment style questions. And so I use these for skill building exercises, and I can make 2 or 3 that the students can do as extra homework or it's optional within that. So that's one area where I'm doing similar to what Jesse's doing, but using slightly different tools. The second thing that I would like to just share is I'm going to just change screen sharing to the whole um, to the whole my whole screen because I'm going to switch through 2 different things. The other area of tools that I've dove into over the last 6 to 8 months, even a little bit longer, is just what's out there for us to be using with our students. And so I'm going to share 3 different charts that I've compiled, or I worked with somebody that's helped compile. So this chart is a comparison of different AI that students can use for speaking. And so this was created actually using ChatGPT. Uh, I have somebody that's helping me understand AI tools. They're good in IT. They're also a high school student, but he works with me and I give him a few hours of work each week and ask him to help me understand better with the AI tools, etc. So there's Elsa Speak, Hyperwrite, Speak AI, Udly. And so there's an overview. How is this helping students with their speaking or writing? What's the benefits of it? Key features. So, instant feedback, information can be generated, real-time feedback on their speech, customizable conversation. So with advancements in the last, I'll say 2 years, but especially the last 4 to 6 months, there's lots of AI programs that are available. Some are for free, some you pay a monthly subscription, but your students can be using to practice their speaking. Okay, and then I've done a similar deep dive into um, writing and writing evaluation tools. And so and I've tested a few of these, but not a lot of them. So there's kangaroos.ai that's for schools So you can put in a rubric of your writing, and then you can put in the students' paragraphs, and it will give you feedback that you can then send to your students. So there's Kangaroo, there's CoGrader, there's EdCafe, there's GradeScope, there's Essay Graders. So there's 5 or 6 that I've looked at. Now, for some people, the conversation then goes to, and we can discuss this together, but the conversation goes to, okay, but what about the privacy of our students? How do we avoid or move around that? So with some of these programs, they're set up for schools with privacy in mind. So the information you're giving them is not being fed into a giant AI machine and being, looking and training. It's just being used to give you feedback based on the rubric you give it. And you may have heard the term LLM, a large language model. And now with advancements, again, especially in the last 4 to 6 months, so as Jesse was saying, a lot has changed recently. Um, with the bigger, uh, so smaller storage, like the size of storage is becoming smaller, and there's now laptops that we're using regularly that you can have this on your laptop separate and detached from the internet. So again, you're not feeding your students' work into some large cloud that's taking that information and using it to make their programs better. You're isolating it on your laptop and only using it within your own environment, even offline. And that helps guarantee the privacy of what you're feeding into it, whether it's students speaking or writing information, etc. So I know that's a very quick dive and very fast. We do have Sandra, who's now joined us. And so she's also going to give us a quick demonstration of one of the AI tools she uses, and then we'll have a bit of time after for questions from that. So Sandra, can you just introduce yourself to us and just share where you're working, some of the tools you use regularly, and then what you are going to demonstrate today.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that whole, specifically that chart that you shared, Trevor, of all the AI tools. And yes, things are changing on a rapid basis.
Yeah.
I'd say mostly to our advantage, which is really cool. I teach at Red River College in the CNI, which is the Center for Newcomer Integration. That's what it is. CNI. Yes, the same place where, well, Trevor works as well as Jesse works. So it's a good place to be. Lots of changing going on. Before I start, Trevor, how many minutes do I have?
How many do you need? Because if you had about, yeah, well, yeah, if you had about 12 to 15, that would be
Okay.
great. And
Okay.
that would give us a few minutes at the end for questions as well. I mean, I have said 11:30 to 12:30, but I'm willing to be on till 12:45 or 12:50 because I think this topic is very engaging and tons of questions. So, we
Yeah.
can kind of
Yeah.
see.
Okay. So I'll limit it to like closest to maybe 12 minutes as possible. I am sorry that I came late. I was teaching till 12. So thank
No
you for sending
problem.
me the link. That's great.
Yeah.
The technology that I use is Padlet. And the Padlet is my friend. It's absolutely my friend. And it's an online resource. I probably use maybe 5% of it,
Mm,
knowing full well that I don't need to use all the bells and whistles. I need to use it for my own purpose for my students. So I make it work for my students. So as a little intro, I'll just explain or even ask, let's see, Pam or Olina, do you know about a Padlet? No, no. How about you, Olina? Or Jesse? Do you use Padlet? No? Trevor, you use Padlet?
So I actually don't. My wife Lucy is also a teacher and has used it extensively, and she showed it to me, and I'm like, that's cool. So I think it's something I'd like to incorporate. But no, I
Mhm.
think you can teach us as if we're not, as we're newbies. It sounds
Okay, okay. So what I'll do is I'll show you the outcome, and then I'll go into kind of like the steps of how I do it. And it's always evolving, which is really cool. This is not static at all. So I'll show you um, one. I have three examples, but I'll start with, let's see, I'll start with this one. And now I need to figure out how to share my screen. We use Teams, we use WebEx, and now we're
yeah.
using
Zoom.
Zoom.
Yeah. So there
So
should be a little green folder
yeah,
with an
yeah,
up
there
arrow,
we go.
and then you can choose, like in Teams, you can choose the whole screen or just a window.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, I switch
So
back and forth regularly, and I'm always confused now. Okay, which platform am I on, and then what do I use? Oh, wow.
there's no dust collecting in the brain, right? Okay. So every morning I get the students, we start with this. And this is an example of grammar, because that's where I use this grammar. And in this case, and I teach 6-7 level, CLB 6-7. And here I have a link. It's about participle adjectives. So students get to open this and they'll see a link and they need to basically teach themselves.
Hmm.
That at first they're totally intimidated. No, teacher, you need to be teaching us. I'm going, no, we've got the internet that you need to teach yourself in a lot of cases. And so with time limit, I have this link, and I think I also have an example here. Did I have my, yeah, here. I put my own Padlet in with my name here, Sandra, and this is an example. And students then have to put their own link in. They learn how to put their name in and highlight the grammar item. And then after that's done, and this is time limit. I usually put like 10 minutes. That's it. So if a student has missed it, it's like, sorry, they know there's a time limit. And it's to their benefit because they have to force, like they put pressure on to make decisions. And that's exactly what you want to do for this learning process. Um, After all the Padlets are in, I then ask a student to give feedback. So a student, because I teach in person, so and this can be done online as well. So a student then will give feedback one by one by one, and they have to do this quickly because I have 5 minutes, 5 minute limit. We don't always go through every single one, um, but we often do. We often do because it doesn't feel good to be left out.
Mhm.
But they know there's a time pressure. And why do I do that? Well, it's so that a student gets practice on a regular basis to not only give feedback, but to receive feedback and do it in a diplomatic way. So we study about the diplomacy and the softeners and that kind of stuff. So, for example, here, Chen writes, I was gratified by his invitation to his graduation party. So I was gratified. So that is the focus here. I guess there's no other feedback other than that makes sense. Let's see, is there a mistake anywhere? Can I find a mistake? It was an unexpected easing. Oh, see, that is a mistake. It was, well, maybe not. It was an unexpected easing. It's a collocation difficulty there. It's awkward, but it kind of makes sense. So I would give feedback saying, I'm not really sure if this is a real flow of the language. If we read it, it was an unexpected easing when I knew that the assessment will be postponed to Monday. So we kind of understand the meaning, but it's awkward, right? So that's one example. I'll give you another example. That's participle adjectives. Another one, and then I'll show you the steps. Okay. Are you seeing the purple screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, good. So it just transferred. Good. So this is all about collocation dictionary. I'm kind of known as the collocation queen here. If you don't know what collocations are, look it up. It's a very cool thing. So for a week at a time, because that's what I do for Padlets, a theme per week. And I generally get the ideas from my students. Their reading, or pardon me, their writing, the way they speak. I get information, and eventually students realize, oh, I don't know how to do prepositions. Can we do that? So I get it from them as well. So this is about collocation dictionary, and I have two different links here that I put in, and they need to go in there and find a collocation and to use it in a sentence. I'd encourage them to use a sentence that connects to their life. So in this case, yeah, Mustafa writes, heavy rain is expected this Thursday. So that's kind of a collocation here. Or came across. I came across a concerning article while browsing the internet, because this is not something that they'd come across readily on their own, because that's collocation. Or Daria's, let's write up your contract. So that's a more like a phrasal verb, but that's under the umbrella of collocations as well. Or take your chances from Alexander. You could take your chances every time you find new things out there. So take your chances. So they get to play around with the language. This is not marked. It's just given feedback, and you just practice. It's like a sandbox in that way. So that's really, really helpful. I don't have an example of it. I didn't have a chance to search, but I do have an example of using run-on sentences, because that is a real issue. Run-on sentences. It's crazy, right? And as an instructor, you can teach run-on sentences till the cows come home and students will still get it wrong. So what do? I put a link in here for run-on sentences, and then they have to create a run-on sentence or fragment, and they have to fix it in the same Padlet. And they get better at it throughout the week. And that has been the only way that I have seen students actually progress with run-on sentences. They have to create their problem and they have to solve it. So that's a really cool way of doing it. So how do I do it? All right. So I'll stop that. How do I do it? I do it so automatically that I had to write myself some notes. I'll stop sharing, and then, I have only 3 minutes here. Okay, I'm going to share again, but I'll share my screen. But I don't even know, can I share this screen? This is Jesse. I'm not Jesse, although Jesse's name is on my, so we'll see how this goes. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Or no?
Yeah.
Can you see Trevor in the front? Yeah? Okay, so what I'm going to do, I am going to go into all the orange faces there again. I'm going to go into Padlet. I'm using my personal one right now because that's what was recommended by Trevor. So here you can make a Padlet. So I'm going to make a Padlet. I'm going to just choose the first one. There's tons of options of which I have not practiced with. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. So it says my shiny Padlets. Well, that's going to be the title over here. I simply go, okay, this is going to be verb tenses. And I'll say done. And then You might wonder, how do other students get in here? Well, I look at the URL, I click on it, I copy it, and then I'll go straight into the day that I had today. And we did infinitives and gerunds. So then I simply click in there and I'll just make another one so it'll be easier to remove. So then I just paste it in, verb tenses. So when my students open this, they will click on here immediately and get to the same place. So I'll just cancel that. So it's in the day itself. Okay, so that's how I do it. And so now I don't like this color, so I am going to choose a different color. And so the wallpaper here. And here is where I get to know my students. I ask them, so what color do you prefer? Okay, we're going to have the green checkered. All right, we're going for a picnic. All right, because that looks like a picnic one. All right, so I close that. And then to make a Padlet, there's two different ways. I click 2 times, and then I get a Padlet where I can put my name or title there. Or the bottom right-hand corner, I click on that lovely place there, and then I have 2. I have a draft 1 and I have draft 2. Here, I use these bells and whistles. I simply go, I want to add something. I go into my files or in the internet. And so here I've got essential docs for students. I go into my grammar and I go into participle adjective long list. And then I simply publish that. Oops, there we go. Publish that. And then they have the link. And then they put their own Padlet in based on the link and my example. So that's how I do it. And the fact that it's time limited, it really helps them to make decisions really quickly. And they're really accountable to each other because whatever they put on, everyone can see. And so immediately quality goes up, right? Students become really familiar with giving and receiving feedback. That to me is critical. Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
When you give a time limit, is that embedded within Padlet or is that something you're doing externally in a classroom?
Yeah, excellent question. I use my phone. That's my
Okay, right.
friend.
So it's
Yeah.
not necessarily a feature within it, but we can give them because I teach online, so I'm just thinking if I'm giving them asynchronous work, I would just give them instructions, spend 10 minutes on this, or type of idea.
Yeah. I use my own timer.
Yeah,
And it's flexible. Like if they're really into some questions about something grammar, okay, we're going to extend that,
right.
but not too far because we got lots of things to do.
Yeah.
And Jesse, you asked, is it free? Okay, here's a little tidbit. It depends. I've used my own personal Padlet until RRC, Red River College, paid for it, and then I use theirs. But the personal one, you can keep on using it as long as you don't go beyond 3 Padlets. So the trick of it is just delete your Padlets. Like capture them with a snipping tool if you really need to, as I have done, I showed you. But as long as you keep it below 3, you can just use that unlimited. Yep, nobody has stopped me yet. So
Good. Any other questions for Sandra?
I'd like to use it. Then the next level would be where students will look at each other's right beside them, like
Hmm.
at their desk, and to give each other feedback in that way. Up till now, I've simply just done it as a whole class.
Okay.
There's so many different ways.
Right. And that's where you could even take screenshots or like you could capture sections of that and send that out to different students, or like you guys work
Mhm.
on these four, you work on, yeah, there I could see a variety of ways where that would work
Mhm.
well.
I also capture the mistakes.
Hmm.
I capture mistakes. I'll put it on a Word document, and at a whatever given time, okay, solve these. It's a Word document, basically assignment, skill building. These are our problems. Solve them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions that you may have for Sandra? One question I also had, because I was discussing with some other instructors with Padlet, I noticed that the students' names were there. Is there sometimes an embarrassment from some students of the fact that their work is being seen and analyzed, or is that something that you've been able to just accommodate because you create a caring, respectful environment, and then students have kind of followed along with that?
Yeah, good question. Yes. I encourage students to make themselves feel comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm,
And it's also a way that it increases their quality.
yeah,
But definitely, yeah, there's mistakes there, but nobody is shamed for it.
yeah,
And they will see that absolutely every student in their own time is making mistakes.
yeah.
Sometimes I put in mistakes intentionally
Good. Right.
and see if they can find it.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's just part of learning. You make mistakes. So why did I make mistake? What can I learn from this?
right. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I did want to jump into the whole area of how our students are using it on an ethical basis, unethical basis, etc. But I do want to be respectful of our time. And I honestly, I think that could turn into a 1 hour presentation on its own. So, for those of you that are here live and those of you that are watching this at a recorded version at a later date, on May 2nd, I'll put in a shameless plug here, but on May 2nd, we'll be having our annual TESOL Manitoba conference. It will be held at the downtown campus at 160 Princess Street from 9, it'll start around 9:15, but we're saying 9 till 3 p.m. And we're going to have a similar panel discussion. Hopefully, Jesse and Sandra and one or two others will join us. And that'll give us a chance to repeat some of this because I know some of this was, if you've never seen it, you're like, I got lost. What did I do in step three? But also have a chance for more people to participate, and then if we don't get a chance to kind of get into the ethical side of and how our students are using it, we do have one more PD at the end of May or early June that TESOL Manitoba will be putting on. And depending on instructor interest and response, then that may be the topic for that final PD where we'll gather a panel and just discuss a little bit from that. But I also will be interviewing Tyler Sten. I, I'm not going to say his last name fully because I think I might mispronounce it, but there's a instructor at Red River College that is one of the teachers for a micro-credential course about using generative AI in the classroom. I took it in the fall and it's 15 hours, but he goes through and helps you understand what generative AI is, what it can do with prompts and image generation, etc. But then the second or the third and fourth weeks is more on what are the ethical considerations? What are different institutions? How have they formed their policies? And you see a range and see which ones are kind of keeping up with this and which ones haven't even thought of this or are falling behind. But then he also, part of that course is you making your own statement that you embed that's kind of on top of what your institution might say, but you embed in your core syllabus. So watch for that video sometime in April or May. I'll be sitting down with him making that and sharing that with the TESOL Manitoba community as well. So we will cover some of that with that. For today, so we talked about Roshi.ai. Jesse shared a little bit about using ChatGPT and Roshi together. I shared a bit about using Roshi and Copilot, and we're making YouTube videos. You can also do it with news articles, website articles. And then Sandra shared about Padlet. Any last questions or comments before we wrap up for today? Anything, Jesse or Sandra, that you'd like to just kind of leave us with?
Yeah, like I kind of said at the beginning there, I think the technology is changing so fast and in many ways unpredictably.
Yeah.
So what you might perceive as a limitation today,
Mm,
tomorrow might not be a limitation at all. There might be a new technology tomorrow that or a new version of AI or a new platform, AI platform that just does so much more. So it's just something that you have to just keep your eye on constantly.
hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Sandra, any other thoughts?
I'm just curious as to how often these lunch and learn sessions take place.
So we've had this is our fourth one actually. So we sat down with Johnny, and that's where with the Tessel Manitoba newsletters that are being sent out, it's been updated in that, but I know that some people didn't become PD pass holders until December, January, February. But that's where throughout the year we provide PD sessions similar to this, and then we have our annual conference. Um, and so next year, starting in the fall, we'll have a continued series in the fall and in the spring, some winter,
Yeah,
spring.
yeah.
So January, I sat down with Roshi.ai founder Johnny, and
Mm-hmm.
he went through Roshi in detail. That video is now available for everyone, and I'll send out the links. In February, we did a two-part series on finances. One was how to increase your income. So what are different ways teachers are increasing your income? And a similar type of discussion will take place during the conference as well. We're going to have a panel of somebody that's a fully entrepreneurial, several who are teaching, but then on the side, either tutoring in English or have businesses totally unrelated to English. And just how are we making money and managing money? And then the second part of that was how do we decrease our expenses? I led both those sessions. I was a financial planner for 5 years, helping Canadians get out of debt, and I still teach my newcomers everything I taught in that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you can go back and watch those videos. We did have a person lined up for speaking about mental health, and that we didn't get a recording with that, but I'm trying to see if that person will do a presentation for our conference as well. So we've tried to make these sessions practical. I know there's the PDs of, how do I teach, CLB7 and how do I teach literacy but we've deliberately focused these on practical areas that will benefit all of us, especially in this time of uncertainty as we have budget cuts across the board and across Canada. So there's been a method to some of the themes and topics that we've picked to help us as teachers grow and flourish, but also get us prepared for what's happening in the next 6 months, year, 2 years. We can take steps now to get ready for those changes. Okay.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, I appreciate, sorry, anything else, Sandra, that you wanted to add? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I appreciate all of us having a chance, and taking part of our day for this. We will make the recording available on the Tessel Manitoba YouTube channel. Usually, we've been just making them private. Well, I think they're unlisted is the correct terminology, and then I send out a link through the newsletters, so you can watch for that. I'll say probably in about 2 weeks because we'll send a reminder in about a week or two with our upcoming conference. Make sure that you and others from your institution are registered for that, and it'll be in person and online. So no one no one can say I can't attend depending on where they're at. So we will have options online within every session, but we're hoping to network and bring people together to speak face to face. And I'll give you a little sneak preview. We're bringing in some pet therapy. We're bringing in potentially some people to give massages during the lunch hour and also having a paint session. So again, just in line with enjoyment and being back in person, we're also trying to create some luxury things or things that we don't always take the time for our mental and physical health during the lunchtime of that day. So we haven't really released some of that. I'm still working on details with the conference committee, but just a sneak peek. And again, for those watching the video afterwards, hopefully that gets you a bit more excited of what's coming up on May 2nd. So thank you very much. Really appreciate the support and the sharing and the questions. And we look forward to seeing you in person on May 2nd and or online or in other capacities as we bump into each other around these different events. So thanks again, and
You
you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy this weather. It's the first time since September it's been like plus 12 or 15 or higher. So have a great afternoon, everyone.